Picture this, it's London, 1851, and seemingly out of nowhere, a gigantic, shimmering palace made almost entirely of glass and iron just appears. This is the incredible story of the Great Exhibition and its absolutely unbelievable centerpiece, the Crystal Palace.
No, really, think about that for a second. Could you build a structure made almost entirely of glass, stretching longer than 5 football fields, using only 19th century technology? It sounds completely impossible, doesn't it? Well, back in 1851, they actually did it.
And this is what they built. People nicknamed it the Crystal Palace, and you can see why. It was just a jaw-dropping sight. A massive iron skeleton held up almost 300,000 individual panes of glass. On a sunny day, the inside was just flooded with natural light, which was unlike any building anyone had ever experienced before.
And just to give you a sense of the scale we're talking about, the building was 1,850 feet long. That is truly enormous. An absolute giant of engineering that seemed to pop up out of nowhere in the middle of London's Hyde Park.
So, you have to ask why. Why go to all this trouble to build something so huge and so temporary? Well, the whole thing was the brainchild of Queen Victoria's husband, Prince Albert. He had this vision of hosting a massive international get-together, but this wasn't just any party. It was an event with a very specific and, honestly, a world-changing purpose.
To really get the why, you first need to understand the Industrial Revolution. This was a time when brand new inventions, especially things like powerful steam engines, were completely transforming how everything was made, how people worked, and how they lived. It was this moment of huge, incredibly rapid progress, and Prince Albert wanted to put all that progress on display for the entire world to see.
And the idea behind this great exhibition was pretty ambitious. First, it was about showcasing all these amazing new inventions. Second, they wanted to invite nations from all over the globe to come and show off their best work too. Third, the hope was that if countries were competing with new ideas and technology, maybe they'd be less interested in competing with armies. And fourth, let's be real, it was a chance for Great Britain to prove it was a top global leader.
But there was a massive problem. To host the world's first World's Fair, you need a building big enough for all those exhibits. And you need it built incredibly fast, right in the heart of London. The deadline they had seemed completely impossible.
The solution came from a guy named Joseph Paxton, who was an expert at building giant greenhouses. He had a revolutionary idea. Instead of building everything from scratch right there in the park, what if every single piece, every iron girder, every pane of glass was mass-produced in a factory first? Then you just bring all those standardized, pre-made parts to the site and assemble them like a giant kit. This was one of the first major uses of prefabricated construction, an idea that would totally change how we build our cities.
Okay, so just when they had this brilliant plan, they hit another snag. The spot they'd chosen in Hyde Park was home to several huge, beautiful elm trees. The public was absolutely outraged at the idea of chopping them down, and the entire project was suddenly in danger of being canceled. But Paxton's solution was pure genius. Instead of fighting the problem, he just redesigned the building. He added this massive, high, arched roof to the central hall, a roof tall enough to simply build the palace around the living trees. So visitors would walk through this marvel of industry and see full-grown elm trees, alive and thriving, right there inside with them.
So, with the palace finally built, the doors opened to a spectacle the world had never, ever seen. Half the space was dedicated to Britain and its empire, and the other half was filled with exhibits from countries all across the globe. It was literally like taking a trip around the entire world, all under one gigantic glass roof.
And the variety was just stunning. On one side, you had these massive, powerful steam engines and high-speed printing presses, many of them actually running so you could see them in action. The Americans brought over things like new harvesting machines and guns made with interchangeable parts. And then on the other side, you could see gorgeous silks from India, delicate porcelain from France, and even the legendary Koh-i-Noor diamond, one of the largest diamonds in the world.
And people came in droves. We're talking over 6 million visitors in just 24 weeks. To make sure everyone could see it, on certain days they dropped the ticket price to just 1 shilling, which meant that working-class families could afford to come and see the future. And here's a great little fun fact. The Great Exhibition featured the first ever public toilets at a big event. It cost 1 penny to use them, which is actually where we get the phrase, to spend a penny.
So the exhibition was a massive, runaway hit. But what happened after the doors closed and the party was over? Well, unlike a lot of big public projects, this one didn't just break even. It made a huge profit.
And Prince Albert had some pretty big plans for all that money.
He took the profits and used them to buy a huge patch of land in London. This area, which people started calling Albertopolis, was set aside specifically for new museums and schools that would be dedicated to science and the arts. And what about the Crystal Palace itself? It was way too beloved to just tear down, so it was carefully taken apart, piece by piece, and rebuilt in another part of London where it stood for many more decades.
You know, the legacy of the Great Exhibition is still with us today in a very real way. Those museums that were built with the profits, like the world-famous Science Museum and the Natural History Museum, they're still there, teaching millions of people every year. And the whole idea of a World's Fair, where countries gather to show off innovation and culture, that tradition all started right here, in this incredible palace of glass, back in 1851. Which brings me to a final thought. The Great Exhibition was all about showcasing the top, most important innovations of its time. So, if we were to hold a Great Exhibition today, what single invention do you think we should put on display to represent our age? What defines the future now?